Hello everyone. I forgot to add the goal to this. It's gonna work. Yeah, it's gonna work. Right here. There's the goal. Anyway, time to start the stream. Today we're going to do, as usual, the 80 and 100 words per minute classes. I've only been writing out of my legal terminology textbook lately, so I might be a little slower on the dictation than usual. Okay. Let's get to it.
Welcome to drill practice. Let's start out with some finger switches. Get our fingers moving. Ready? Here we go. Don, den, done, hit, hat, hut, pet, pat, pit, win, wane, one, gill, gal, gull, nub, knob, nab, bet, bat, bit, hull, hill, less, lost, last, pip, pop, pup.
Up. Okay. I had the caps lock on for the first 3 words.
All right. Now let's practice these money amounts.
Money amount. Okay.
Ready? Here we go. $345.98. $535.42. $972.75. $98.89. $23.65. $59.61. $1,354. $7,934. $8,988. $24,506. $47,635. $36,937. $3.65. $1.47. $9.36.
That it? I was worried it would be longer.
Now let's practice these states and admission dates. Ready? Here we go. Alabama. Alabama was admitted to the Union on December 14, 1819. Alaska. Alaska was admitted to the Union on January 3, 1959. Arkansas. Arkansas was admitted to the Union on June 15, 1836. California. California was admitted to the Union on September 9th, 1850. Colorado. Colorado was admitted to the Union on August 1, 1876. Connecticut. Connecticut was admitted to the Union on January 9, 1788.
That it? That was only a few states. Now that I was expecting to be longer.
Now we'll practice some sentences focusing on consonant compound TW. Ready? St. Paul is one of the twin cities. Please twist the twine into a ball. Mark Twain wrote Tom Sawyer. Wear your tweed coat tonight. He said, the twain shall never meet. I know he had a twinkle in his eye. You should have nothing to do with that twerp. The material was a hard twill. Now we are going to practice some very short 2 words, and one of those words will be this, that, these, or those. Ready? Supply that. Those colors. This control. That record. Those papers. This problem. That income. This engine. Those lamps. That parcel. Those comics. these units, that flower, cancel this, carry that, those boxes, this lumber, these pencils.
We got 2 minutes left.
Now for some practice with some consonant compounds, and this is just a mix of different consonant compounds. Ready? Here we go. Grand, chirp, scorn, plunge, stack, scratch, sphinx, gland, squirt, gravel, sport, churn, quarrel, charge, blunt.
Sphinx. Okay, that's how you spell sphinx. Sphinx. Gravel. Else? Turn. Chirp. Okay. Moving on to the jury charge and literary.
Welcome to literary and jury charge practice. Let's start out with this short, rather short narrative answer. Get our fingers warmed up. Ready? Here we go. It was a truck. The guy stopped in front of the car, and the way he was positioned and the way I was, his headlights were going sort of like over the top, and there was nothing but a clear space, and I had to stay there. I thought he was going to get out and check the car and everything, and maybe grab the keys. He didn't do nothing. He just sat there for about, 30 seconds, and then he started backing up over the hill and went down over the other side. So when he was gone, I went back down to the car and got in, and then just, accelerated on up over the hill. It took me almost no time to do that. And when I got over to where I could see him, he had pulled back far enough where I could get onto Highway 99. I could see him. He had his car over on the white line that marks the side of the road. You might say his tires were on the dirt. His strange behavior gave me cause for real concern about what his intentions were.
Aha. That's how you write.
All right, now let's try some jury charge practice. And this is a criminal jury charge. Ready? Here we go. A confession is a statement made by a defendant other than at his trial in which he has acknowledged his guilt of crimes for which he is on trial. In order to constitute a confession, such a statement must acknowledge participation in the crimes as well as the required criminal intent. A statement made by a defendant other than at his trial is not a confession, but an admission whenever the statement does not by itself acknowledge his guilt of the crimes for which he is on trial, but which tends to prove his guilt when considered with the rest of the evidence. Evidence of an oral admission or confession of the defendant ought to be viewed with caution.
I write one. Ah.
Let's get back to some literary material.
If she takes out the cheese book.
And we'll try this technical.
Technical. Yes.
Paragraph. Ready? Here we go. A heavy-duty dump truck needs to be a tough partner in heavy construction jobs. Possible trouble areas need extra attention to help cut the downtime. The dashboard in the cab is designed so that the gauges and switches can be removed from the front and placed in the cab. This gives quick and easy replacement in the field and avoids a trip to the shop. Circuit breakers are mounted next to the steering column for easy access. There is no loose wiring behind the dashboard. The wiring has been placed in grooves to the rear of the dashboard. Excuse me.
That was easy. I was thinking it would be more difficult.
All right, now let's get back to our jury charge.
Hey!
Ready? Here we go. You are the exclusive judges as to whether an admission or a confession was made by the defendant and whether the statement is true in whole or in part. If you should find that such a statement is entirely untrue, you must reject it. If you find that it is true in part, you may consider that part which you find to be true. No person may be convicted of a criminal offense unless there is some proof of each element of the crime independent of any confession or admission made by him outside of this trial. The identity of the person who is alleged to have committed a crime is not an element of the crime, nor is the degree of the crime. Such identity or degree of the crime may be established by an admission or confession. Remember that your first duty is to determine that a crime has been committed. You must do that before you can consider whether the defendant made a confession or admission, and whether such admission or confession is true.
I got that all in. I wrote it all.
All right, now let's try this short narrative answer.
Hey.
Ready? Here we go. John wasn't aware that he hadn't received the information on time. The company wasn't checking on the mail properly and didn't know that it hadn't been sent out on time. We couldn't do anything to hurry things up. John couldn't help it because he wasn't informed. The company shouldn't have been upset about it. John hasn't been remiss before. I can't help feeling he shouldn't be blamed. All right, now we'll try this technical answer. Ready? Customers always wanted to see performance under ambient conditions that were significantly different. These were temperatures of minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit up to as high as 85 degrees centigrade. So what we did was put a heater and refrigeration system on that apparatus that either cooled or heated the gas. The question was, would a test into a tank that already contained 1 atmosphere of air be significantly different than a test into a tank that was evacuated? I somehow didn't think it would, but we had to prove it.
Evacuate. Not in my dictionary.
Some of the words that you may want to add to your challenging word list, because I know there were a few.
Evacuate.
Let's see, we had Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit was easy.
Centigrade. Apparatus. Refrigeration. So some words to maybe work on. All right, let's try this narrative answer now.
Wait, I need to put in, evacuation. Okay, I did it.
Looks like it might not have as many challenging words. Ready? Here we go. I came down the hall to take a letter to the main office. I was not particularly rushing because there was no need to.
Forgot how to write particular.
Because there was no need to. I did note that the floor had been waxed because I did say to Mr. Mason that the floor looked very nice. He said that he wondered why they had waxed the floor on Tuesday. They usually did it over the weekend. As I turned the corner, my feet just went out from under me, and the next thing I knew, I was on the floor. I knew right away that something was wrong with my arm. There was instant pain. I must have fallen on it because it was twisted behind me. My elbow and shoulder hurt, and I had hot pains going all the way up and down the whole arm. I just sat on the floor and did not do a thing. I could not move. I felt shocked and hurt. Then Mr. Mason ran over and tried to help me get to my feet. It was hard to get up, and I felt weak all over.
That's it. Next is Q&A.
Welcome to Q&A practice. Let's get started with some warm-up. And we will start with defense attorney. Ready? Here we go. Does the training technique which you have learned and the experience that you have had indicate the methods and the ways to control nervousness in people you are questioning. We try to put them at ease. Just what was it in the defendant's attitude that led you to question her further in relation to the possible criminal involvement which you describe? I don't recall anything in her attitude, sir. Her physical behavior tipped me off. I think that she was possibly or probably hiding something. She became nervous, yes. Visibly so, yes, sir. Isn't that when you probably hiding something? She became nervous, yes. Visibly so. She was possibly or probably hiding something. She became nervous, yes. Visibly so, yes, sir. Isn't that when you started talking to her about scuba diving? No, I think we talked about scuba diving prior to that. I'm not sure, but I think we did. Would that be another type of technique in the interrogation to put someone at ease? Yes, that is a technique, and you are skilled at it, are you not? I try to be. Your thought changed during that first visit somehow or other. That's true. Suspicion at that time focused on Miss Pierce in your mind. It didn't change to Miss Pierce. For the time being, it shifted to her. It didn't eliminate Rodney, in my opinion, but it brought another person into the investigation. You didn't know about that other person before you went out there, did you? No, I didn't. You had had no time to check on that other person, had you? I was informed, based on the report, that it was Rodney. When you went back to the office, was not the purpose of returning to your office to investigate Miss Pierce immediately? Yes.
Okay, I got behavior wrong. That tripped me up.
All right, now let's work on our transcript, little 4-voice practice. And we will start with the court. Ready? Here we go. All right, let's go on the record. We are now going on the record in the matter of the accusation against 7-Eleven Inc. and Sarah R. Kramer doing business as 7-Eleven, number 124753612, premises located at 641 South Main Avenue in Burbank, California. The matter is before the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control. The file number is 201624151, and the registration number is 0308248. I'm Mark Sanchez, and I'm the administrative law judge assigned to handle this matter. Let's have the appearances for the record, starting with the department. Good morning, Your Honor. Marge West for the department. Good morning, Your Honor. Bob Wilson, counsel for respondents. Thank you. I've gone ahead and pre-marked some exhibits. Exhibit 1, the jurisdictional documents, and Exhibit 1 includes the accusation, the notice of defense, the special notice of defense, and the notice of today's hearing. Any objection to my admitting Exhibit 1 into evidence at this time? No objection. None, Your Honor. All right. There being no objection, Exhibit 1 is admitted into evidence. Exhibit 1, the accusation in particular, indicates that these respondents have been licensed since July 1st, 1974, with no record of disciplinary action. Can we stipulate to that? So stipulated, Your Honor. So stipulated. All right. The record will reflect that information. I've also pre-marked 2 photos that I've marked 2A and 2B, and another 2 photos, I assume, of the decoy, which I've marked as 3A and 3B, and these are 2A and 2B. Thank you, Your Honor. And these are 3A and 3B. Thank you. Any other preliminary matters? Ms. West? No. Mr. Wilson? None, Your Honor. Let me just indicate that we asked the minor decoy to step outside, so he's waiting outside, and that was your only other witness other than the one you're calling first. Is that correct? I may call one other witness, but they have not yet arrived. Okay, the only witness in the room right now is your witness, and Your Honor, I do actually have a preliminary matter. Looks like counsel has filed a motion to compel discovery in this case, and the department also filed an opposition to the motion, but there's been no ruling on that motion, so I would just ask the court. I'd like to present the pleadings to the court, and I'd ask the court to make a ruling denying that motion to compel. Well, normally that is set before Judge Morris. That hasn't been set before Judge Morris. It hasn't been heard. It hasn't been heard. It hasn't been set either. Well, I don't think it's been set. I don't know if it's been set. Sorry, sir. All right. I'm going to take a look at these documents. You have your copy? Yeah, I should. And there are the same issues that the court has seen before. Same arguments. All right.
That was a lot. And I didn't get much right.
Good for voice practice.
That was good practice. Let's try the test. See, the test is easy.
This is an 80 Q&A practice test. Plaintiff Attorney Mr. Rios, capital R-I-O-S. Defense Attorney Ms. M.S. period Morris, capital M-O-R-R-I-S. And we'll start with defense attorney. Ready? And when she would do those, you would have no way of knowing that she had gone to one of these private party hustle shots until she faxed back the report at the end of the day. Isn't that right? Yes. And unfortunately, though, on October 31st, you never got a form back that said where she had gone, right? No. So you don't know whether or not Teresa had any hustle shots, privately arranged shots, on October 31st. Do you? No, I do not. And this phone conversation that you had with her at 2:27 p.m., you had some brief discussion, and she said that she was on her way to the Averys. Yes, she did. She said the Avery brothers. Is that what she said? She said the Avery brothers. Yes. She seemed very familiar with them. Yes, she did. You don't know whether she meant she was on her way directly or whether she intended to make another stop before she got there. No, I do not. I just assumed. She said she was on her way there right now, so I assumed. Okay, so if she was not there for another hour, you don't know whether she would have made another stop, got a bite to eat, something like that? No, I would not. Or if she had another hustle shot in between? No, I would not. More importantly, you don't know whether after Mr. Avery, Sue had a private hustle shot, where she was going, where she was planning to go to. Do you? She didn't mention it. but no, I did not. And she wasn't in the habit of mentioning when her hustle shots were with you, right? Sometimes she would, sometimes she wouldn't. So, okay, now these hustle shots, by the way, sometimes they would be where she would go to a customer for one car and she would hustle a second one while she's there, right? Yes. And in fact, that happened in this Tom Scott case where she got two photos on the same date, September 19, right? I'm not certain. All right. Well, that was something that happened, and those were considered hustle shots too, right? Yes. So you don't know whether somebody called to her as she was leaving Steve Avery's residence, somebody else on the Avery salvage property, a brother, customer, whatever, who called to her and said, "Let's take a picture."
That was tough too.
All right.
I don't know why. It's probably just because I haven't been doing practice lately. I've only been doing the legal terminology stuff.
Welcome to
Okay, let's move on to the 100 words per minute class.
Welcome to drill practice. Let's get started with some tangle tamers. And those are just pairs of words that will untangle your fingers, kind of get your fingers moving and warmed up. So let's give it a try. Ready? Global relief effort. Kindergarten teacher. Ethnic differences. Emergency surgery. Literature textbook. B-17 bombers. Progressive specialization. Businesses expanded. Small business centers. Award-winning group. Consumer spending. Technical violations. Traditionally artistic. Practical instruction. Romantic rebound.
It for that. garden.
I hope you feel all warmed up now. Now let's practice some cities and states.
Cities and states.
Ready? Rudy, Arkansas. Long Beach, California. Los Angeles, California. San Francisco, California. Arvada, Colorado. Bradenton, Florida. Orlando, Florida. Palm City, Florida. St. Petersburg, Florida. Wesley Chapel, Florida. Atlanta, Georgia. Bannockburn, Illinois. Elmhurst, Illinois. Highland, Illinois. Fort Wayne, Indiana. Indianapolis, Indiana. Lake Station, Indiana. McPherson, Kansas. Louisville, Kentucky. Mandeville, Louisiana. Highland, Michigan. Las Vegas, Nevada. Elizaville, New York. Canyon, Texas. Fort Valley, Virginia. Let's do some number practice.
No number practice. Boo, number practice.
30, 24.72, 80. All right, let's read from our wish list. Ready? Visit Ellis Island to touch the spot where my ancestors first landed in this country. Have a famous neighbor. Create a personal time capsule to be found centuries from now. Compete in a triathlon. Run a restaurant. take a poet to lunch.
Okay, that's it. Jury charge.
Welcome to literary and jury charge practice. Let's get started with some literary material, and this is regarding test taking and some tips. Ready? Here we go. Each and every time you react negatively to a test or think a negative thought about an exam, you widen and strengthen the negative neural pathway related to testing, and your brain uses that neural pathway to send negative messages to the rest of your body. You tighten up, take a breath, and hold it. Your hands begin to sweat and shake, and you tell yourself you're not ready for this. In essence, you have created a self-fulfilling prophecy. To modify your outcome, you must first forge new pathways and create new testing habits. Let's take a 5-step approach. 1. Focus on the positive. I've written and spoken on the importance of ready, begin a number of times, but it's worth repeating. As you no doubt are, it's worth repeating.
Okay, be right back. Okay, we're back.
As you no doubt are aware, every NCRA certification exam starts with that phrase. So let's begin to think positively about that phrase. When you are practicing, repeat something positive after those words. Something like, I rock, or I'm ready, or let's begin. Whatever positive phrase or phrases you wish to use are entirely up to you, but keep it short and, of course, positive. Neural pathways in your brain can actually be altered by simply changing your verbal or mental response to a stimuli, such as the phrase ready, begin. Modify your response from a negative to a positive one.
Certification. I tried to remember it, but I forgot.
So very, very good idea. Focus on the positive. And let's see some of the words that we had in that little section of this literary.
Certification.
We had self-fulfilling prophecy. So something you might want to practice, self-fulfilling prophecy. Neural, like N-E-U-R-L, neural pathways.
Spelled it wrong.
Neural pathways in your brain. Stimuli.
Stimuli. Now that I forgot.
Stimuli. Well, we'll carry on with that one in a bit. For now, let's try some jury charge practice. And this jury charge, the subject is burden of proof. Ready? Here we go.
Burden of proof.
The jury are instructed that if you find Myron Boone, the treasurer, had express authority to sign the notes and checks and effect the loan in question, or if you find that these acts were within the apparent scope of his authority or within the scope of the authority which he was accustomed to exercise without objection by these defendants, your verdict should be for the plaintiff. But if you find that borrowing this money in the way testified to and giving this paper was not within the authority expressly given to him or within the apparent scope of the authority which he was accustomed to exercise, then your verdict should be for the defendants. And if you should find that this money, borrowed or received for the paper in suit, was not for the use of the defendants, and the plaintiff knew or had good cause to know that fact, or if for any other reason the plaintiff did not in good faith trust the credit of the defendants, then your verdict should be for the defendants. You are instructed that to charge a corporation upon the act of an officer or agent, it must be shown directly or presumptively either that the act was performed while in the discharge of his ordinary duty in the usual course of business and was within the general scope and apparent sphere of such duty, or that it was expressly authorized, or that it was performed with the knowledge and implied assent of the directors of the corporation or its authorized officer, or was subsequently ratified by them. So let's take a look at some of the words that we had there. So we had treasurer,
Custom.
treasurer, authority, expressly, expressly, accustomed, presumptively, presumptively, sphere. We had general scope and apparent sphere of such duty. Sphere. All right, we'll get back to that jury charge, but now let's find out some more tips about taking tests. Ready? Here we go. Change your focus. Instead of asking yourself what happens if I don't pass this test, ask yourself what happens when I do pass this test. Remind yourself of all the positives associated with a new certification, finally getting that job as a new reporter, receiving an increase in pay for a real-time certification, appreciating the recognition associated with additional letters behind your name. There are many positives to attaining a new certification, so focus on those positives and not the negatives that may result if you do not pass the test. Change the if to a when. Not if I don't pass, but when I do pass. 3. Use your imagination. You can form new neural pathways not only by doing, but also by envisioning. So imagine yourself remaining cool, calm, and collected throughout your next certification exam or speed test. Begin every day by visualizing that event and even see yourself receiving the good news from NCRA. Imagine hanging your framed certificate on the wall and posting all about it on Facebook and LinkedIn. After all, your friends and colleagues want to share in your good news too. Use others' positive outcomes to boost your own. After all, if your friends can do it, so can you.
Imagination.
Back to our jury charge practice. The subject, burden of proof. Ready? In this case, the burden of proof rests upon the defendant. He admits receiving the money, and his defense in this case is that he has repaid the same. If therefore follows that the defendant must prove by the preponderance of the evidence that he has paid the indebtedness which he once owed. If you find from the preponderance of the evidence that the defendant has repaid to the plaintiff the $977.80 which he received from the check in question, then your verdict will be for the defendant no cause of action. But if on this question you find the evidence evenly balanced or preponderating in plaintiff's favor, then you will find a verdict in the plaintiff's favor for the amount you find the defendant is owing on the amount of said check. Under the evidence in this case, it appears that either all of said check has been paid or no part of it has been paid. So your verdict will be either for the amount of $977.80 or a verdict of no cause of action. If you find the plaintiff is entitled to recover, then you will add interest at 5% from and after April 1, 1958. If you find the debt has been paid, then your verdict will be a verdict of no cause of action.
Preponderance of the evidence. I always forget how to write that.
Let's look at some of the words that we may want to practice.
EPD.
Preponderance of the evidence. Indebtedness. Preponderating. preponderating. All right, let's get back to our literary on test taking. Ready? Create a plan. Decide how you will handle those negative thoughts when they enter your mind, and practice that plan. When preparing for a test, practice those negative thoughts and also practice your plan to eliminate them. If you hear "ready, begin," and your response is "I'm not ready, please don't begin," then you need to stop. Repeat your positive phrase and start your practice session again. Remember, there are two parts to certification exams: your skills and your confidence. A lack of confidence can outweigh and overwhelm your skills every time. If you don't believe you can pass the test, then you never will pass it, regardless of how good a writer you are. What do you do if you blow a test each time you say to yourself, "I'm getting this"? Then practice that. In each and every practice session, say that phrase to yourself and then push yourself to continue getting it. Ultimately, the new neural pathway will be just that. You continue to get it as opposed to falling apart when you tell yourself you're getting it. In other words, try to replicate your testing anxiety as much as possible in your practice sessions so you can create a new response to the negativity, form a new habit, and generate a new neural pathway.
I don't think this is very scientific. Q&A.
Welcome to Q&A practice. Let's start with the defense. Ready? When did he start complaining about dizzy spells and his legs hurting? Along in September. September, right after school started. That continued on up until February? Yes. During that period of time, were you just asking him what caused it to hurt? Well, I would ask him how it hurt, but my sister told me she thought they were growing pains in his legs. I just figured he would be over it one day. Did you ask him if he had fallen and hurt himself in any way? Yes, I did. What would he say? He said he hadn't fallen. had you questioned him several times about it? Yes, but he never said anything about being hurt until February. Not until February, when he really got sick. In February, did he appear to be worse? Yes, very much. Did he limp? Yes. Was it quite a noticeable limp when he would walk? Very much, yes. He could not walk the same. Did it appear he had to catch on to things because of his dizzy spells? Or did you notice he would almost fall? Yes, he acted as though he was kind of dumb, kind of clumsy, like he wasn't himself. He kind of staggered when he walked? Yes, and he dragged his feet to walk. He dragged both feet? Yes. Did you notice anything else? He would trip real easy. Trip real easily? Yes, sir, and bump into things as he was walking. All right, now let's move along to some voice practice.
Okay.
We will start with the plaintiff.
Plaintiff.
Ready? What was the percentage of the time that you spent patrolling Santa Ana versus Tustin? I would say I patrolled Santa Ana approximately 15% of the time. 15%? Yes. Okay, and how about Tustin? Obviously 85%. Correct. And on patrol between January of 12 and December of 2012, how many times do you think it had been that you'd been by the scene of this accident on patrol? If you can give me an estimate prior to the collision, before the collision, do you think it would be more than 10 times? Maybe close to 10 times. Do you think 5 to 10 would be fair? I would say 10 to 15, yeah. Okay, and had you ever investigated an accident that happened at the intersection of Tustin Avenue and Main? No. Prior to the time of this accident happening? No. Have you ever investigated an accident that happened on Main prior to the happening of this accident? I can't recall if I investigated anything on Main. Main Street is a long stretch. Let's say within 5 miles, either direction of the location where this accident happened. Had you investigated anything in that stretch? I can't be sure. Okay, to your memory, as you sit here today, do you have any memory of doing so? No. Let's talk about your call, getting called to go to the accident. First of all, this accident happened on a Sunday. I'm looking at the report. Is that right? Yes. What were your hours of work on that Sunday? I believe the shift started at 11:30 a.m. and went through 10 p.m. and you mentioned you were doing 4-day work weeks. Correct. Okay. And did you have a partner on that date? No. And tell me how it was that you got the call to go to this collision. Dispatch informed me that there was a call of a motorcycle down on Tustin Avenue at Main, and that there was an ambulance responding. And where were you at the time, if you remember? I was at the 522 exchange. And what were you doing? I was patrolling there. Okay. Did you go over to the location of the subject accident right away? Yes. And which way did you approach as you approached the subject accident? I traveled eastbound on Tustin Avenue. And you understood that in this case, the motorcycle and the lady involved, they were going westbound? Correct. So you would have come from the opposite direction? Yes. All right. And did you, as you were coming, was there a time? Strike that. Did you know where Main Street was? Main Street? I'm sorry, Main Street. Yeah. I knew that it was east of Tustin Avenue, but I didn't know the exact area. So if I'm getting you right, at least on dispatch of this accident, at least as of that time, you didn't know exactly where Main Street was, but you knew it was somewhere you needed to go east. Correct. Okay. And as you were heading east on Tustin, did you continue east? Were you using any kind of a GPS unit? No. Okay. Did you just figure, hey, I'll see the fire trucks, or whatever the case may be? Yes. And did you do that? Did you ultimately see fire or emergency vehicles? Yes. And as you were approaching on Tustin eastbound, what is the first thing that you saw? I remember seeing fire trucks blocking lanes and a group of people standing in the middle of the road. And the fire trucks, were they blocking the eastbound lane for you? I can't recall where they were positioned. Okay. Do you have any memory at all as to the number of fire trucks? If you have, no. And by the way, officer, thank you for reminding me of something. If there's anything today that you don't remember, don't think just because I ask the question that you're supposed to remember. I mean, if you don't know something, or you don't remember, I don't know, or I don't remember is absolutely fair. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. It's not like Jeopardy here today, so I want you to understand. Like you just mentioned, you don't remember the number of fire trucks. That's what I want to find out. Do you remember the number of fire officials, that is, the staff, that was there at the scene upon your arrival? I don't recall. Do you know if there was more than one or two? Yes, there was more than one or two. All right, that will conclude our
Q&A is done. Didn't do very well on it. Not very good.
This will be a 100 Q&A practice test. Plaintiff Attorney Mr. Morris, capital M-O-R-R-I-S. Defense Attorney Ms. M.S. period Wilson, capital W-I-L-S-O-N. We'll start with the defense. Ready?
Defense.
Is that a house or apartment, townhouse, and you own or rent? Rent. How long have you lived there? Approximately 3 years. And who lives at that house with you? Myself, my son, my daughter, my grandson. And how old is your son? He's 24. And how old is the daughter? 27. And how old is your grandson? 9 months. 9 months. Congratulations. Thank you. Are they the only ones that have lived at that address with you? Has anybody else ever lived there? My mother on occasion. My brother on occasion. When was the last time either one of them lived with you? Well, I don't even want to say lived. They will stayed with me for a time. Yeah. Has that happened in the recent past? Maybe a year and a half ago. Okay. Anyone else? A year ago. Anyone else? No. Okay, great. Just generally tell me prior to that where you lived. I don't remember the address, but it was on Rose Way. Is that in Oxnard? Norco. How do you spell that? N-O-R-C-O. Are you talking about Rose or Norco? No, the street. O-R-O-S-E. Okay. Was that a house or an apartment? Townhouse. And did you rent that? Yes. And do you know how long you lived there approximately? Approximately 10 years. Okay, all right, that's good. Just generally tell me prior to that what cities you lived in. Corona. Oh, in Corona. Before that, Orange. Okay, great, all right. And just briefly describe for me your education. I have a bachelor's degree in business with a concentration in marketing. And where did you get that? Cal State, Los Angeles. Any other types of education training? I have a paralegal certificate from South College. Where is that? South College, Phoenix, Arizona. Okay. I also have an AA from Golden West College. AA from where? Golden West College. Please, when you have abbreviations, make sure the court reporter knows the full name. Okay. And your certificates are all current and ready to go, or I don't know how that works. If you have to keep them updated, do you know? No. Is it a certificate that you passed? Yeah, a certificate of completion. Okay, any other types of training or technical? No. Okay, and have you ever filed a civil lawsuit before? Like sometimes it's for injury in a car accident, a fall in the grocery store. What type of thing? Yes. And what and when was that car accident? And when was that? I believe it was 2002. And what happened in that accident? Someone hit me, hit my vehicle from behind, from the side, from the side. And where did you get injured? I believe it was my neck and shoulders. And how did you treat for that? Yes. Where did you go? Scratch that. Were you taken by ambulance from the scene, or did you drive yourself home?
Okay, that's it. I didn't do very well on that either, but that's okay. Go to the next class, class 11. Okay, and that's it for the stream. I'll be back tomorrow for my Trans Lifeline stream. I'm going to be playing I Was a Teenage Exocolonist again. Haven't played that in over a year, so it's going to be fun. Bye, y'all.